Hello, everyone. Before starting, I want to gauge our ability to stretch our arms. So can you raise your hands? And thank you. Why am I asking you that? Because we have a couple of questions for you during this presentation. So it's a way for us to keep you, on the presentation. And this is about getting the most out of your service mesh. Small disclaimer, this is not about a secret recipe or a single configuration that you can, add to your service mesh and then solve all the problems in the world. If that's what you were looking for, no, sorry. My name is Andrea. I'm an engineering manager. I've been doing this work for a little bit more than 2 years. Work for a company called Booking.com. Maybe you know it. I'm the father of a wonderful daughter, husband of a lovely wife, and I also share my life with a really pesty French bulldog, Shweta.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm Shweta Vohra. I am an architect, and I'm dabbling with data and machine learning technologies these days, apart from Kubernetes and service mesh, which is all-time favorite. I have 2 beautiful daughters, mother of 2, and I have in my life, I share my house with my husband. So that's an introduction. Let's get started. We have very simple yet captivating agenda. We'll be starting with the brief introduction about the topic and a glimpse of our journey at Booking.com. We'll be then going into some of our oops moment and how we bounced back from that, and ending it with the takeaways and some learnings which we want to share with our audience today. So with that said, before I start about this picture or this topic, service mesh and Envoy proxy, may I please request you to do a check that how many of you know service mesh and Envoy proxy by raise of hand? Quite a good number of hands. And how many of you are using it in production? A little lesser, but still we have quite a few people here, so I might come back to you on that. Now, may I request your attention on this beautiful image. It's a bustling city image. And imagine these buildings as the services in your services architecture. With these intricate roads are like service mesh, which not just enable you and connect the buildings among each other and make all the service connectivity possible, but service mesh does it very silently and make all the efficient, reliable services communication possible. Let's add now Envoy proxy to this cityscape. Imagine those blue dots on top of each of these buildings is like those smart traffic controllers, which is our intelligent Envoy proxy, which actually not only controls the data in and out of that building, but also does it very smartly, intelligently in terms of rerouting the traffic in case of congestion, if services are down, if any resiliency issues, so it handles all those issues with your traffic control, traffic limiting, etc., etc. So this is much like these roads represent the service mesh, and these traffic control represents your Envoy proxy. With that analogy, let's see the actual technical view of it. We have the service 1, 2, and N. These are much like our buildings. And Envoy proxy is your intelligent traffic controller, which sits inside along with your building and makes sure that traffic only permitted, rate limited traffic goes inside that building, which is what the data plane we call, because it sits very close to your pods or services or any other kind of applications. And then you have brain of it, which is control plane, the bottommost layer. And this bottommost layer is like brain of the system, and this Envoy proxy is like arms, which collecting the data, giving it to brain, and then brain does all the processing which is required. With that said, let's switch the gears. Our journey at Booking.com. So we are very early service mesh adopters. When we started, Istio was somewhere at 0.2 version. Linkerd was at 1.3 somewhere. But both of them were not that mature that we could adopt them as service mesh. So we decided to have our own control plane. And we used Envoy proxy as a very solid tool which was present at that time. And we used Zookeeper as our backend to that system. After dabbling with it, we went into a stage where we are now and we have very well performing enhanced control plane, where we have a very good balance between the release of the service mesh features and what kind of experience we give or control we give to our users. That's the state we are in. And very soon we are moving into modern hybrid cloud service mesh, where our goal is to simplify this model across this hybrid cloud, where it can be a serverless service, it can be a containerized technology, or it can be any kind of hybrid system. So that's our goal next. And we are day in and out working on that. Some numbers. And now a question for those who raised hand and are working in production. Do you know that how many service requests, or what is your traffic in and out of your system in the service mesh? Any numbers? Is it 10K requests per second or lesser? Okay. No. no service or no traffic. Okay. No, I know it's a random question, so it can happen. But a glimpse of our some numbers that we have a peak traffic of around 6.4 million requests per second, which this service mesh handles, with 2.5K plus services and microservices, which are there communicating to each other. We have 1.4K plus user configurations, which means a lot of liberty to the users also to dabble and use various other features of the configuration. And we are into hybrid cloud connectivity with multiple regions. And we have all sorts of traffic, which is like east-west, north-west, north-south, all sorts of traffic, which it caters to. With that, where we are today, we are at a state where 80% cases are easy kind of cases where we take care of them through control plane and we have things to control them. But there are 20% cases where users need that liberty to play around and do their specific use cases, and they take the control. Then we have latest stable Envoy, we have Istio rollouts, and we have security, which is zero trust network is what we are having. We are moving with this is in-flight serverless connectivity and other advanced implementations, as I said. And we have full control over traffic when needed with better dependency and better visibility. But were we always like that? Well, let's understand from Andrea.
Thank you, Shweta. Well, I guess the answer obviously is no. We had our own fair share of oops moments. Well, I want to share at least 3 of those stories with you. And I would like to start from the first one, which is this picture. I think what's happening is pretty clear. And from the numbers that Shweta shared with you, with that in context, let me take a step back. Let's consider what you can find today reading the Istio documentation. Istio is a very well-known service mesh. It's CNCF. It's fantastic. It's lovely. And one of the pitches about Istio, the value of Istio, is that it's really plug and play. You can install Istio leveraging the sidecar or not. It's your choice. But the idea of Istio is that it should be simple to plug it in your network, and then it should just work. OK. If we try to do that with our numbers, what happens is that Istio, by default, shares all the service entries everywhere to all the namespaces and all the workloads. Considering the numbers 1,500 workloads and 30,000 endpoints, these numbers are likely to be configured in every single Envoy running in our fleet. Now, I want to quickly make a connection. We were talking about environment. We were talking about cost of execution, like cost of computing. Imagine how long it takes for an Envoy sidecar to load all of that and how much memory it takes and how much inefficient this is. Well, we didn't get into this oops moment with those numbers. It already happened some time ago. But you can imagine what can happen if you misconfigure a single service. The clowns trying to fit a very small car. Second oops moment. Shweta mentioned our mesh platform. For us, mesh is not only a plug-and-play system. It's something that can be leveraged by our users. Our users are trying to get any single feature out of Envoy. The 20%. The 80% don't care. But what can happen if you can run like a lot of automation that is aimed to simplify the user experience? Imagining that you are rolling out a service. So you are rolling out, you have your own Argo CD or GitHub Actions and whatnot. You might have your own rollout pipeline. And then you also have to add the service mesh configuration on top of it. It's like a lot of toil that you're requesting every time a single team deploys an application. Now multiply this by thousands of deployments per day, and then you get a lot of time that we are basically wasting. Well, we tried in the past to make this simpler by automating. And if an automation goes wrong, what happens is that a seemingly innocent change, like a timeout, can actually destroy your entire website. The website is down. It happened. And third point, let's say that we have a few features that are nowadays available on Envoy. Actually, they were available since some years ago. One is slow start. Slow start, again, is related to rollouts. It's about the ability for your mesh, for your traffic management, to actually send traffic to your newly created pods or applications in a slow start fashion. Let's say your server requires a little bit of time to, start up some caches in memory. So you can take the full-fledged amount of traffic, and then Envoy is able to do that very, very well. However, what if your control plane doesn't support that? We actually went there, and we actually made our users trying to emulate the same thing with a funky, let's take the Kubernetes services and let's try to do something on the pods. Let's try to label them in order to emulate this. It didn't work. So what did we learn? How did we bounce back? So the first example, if you remember the clowns, we had 30,000 clowns as endpoints and 1,500 as clusters. Well, the point here is that we line them out. So we put them out of the car, we line them out, and then we find a way. I became this girl trying to actually direct the clowns to the right direction. The point here is that should you, as an organization, waste 30-35% of your CPU and memory just to run Envoy? Or should you try to optimize the amount of information that Envoy has to process only to the services that you're actually supposed to be reaching? Obviously, this is where we are going. And how we are going it? How are we doing it? Well, I have an hint. Somebody described a system discovery system, a service discovery mechanism where you can actually store your services and how they are depending on one another. That's more or less it. Guardrails. Remember, automations without control can lead to disasters. And it's about a balancing act here, because the automations were created in the first place to simplify the life of our engineers. So great. However, at some point I was faced with questions like, should I sacrifice the user experience a little bit, make the process a little bit more toily for the customer, for our users, but more secure? As a business, at some point, the answer is, maybe you need to make the hard choice. And that's what we did. So now the dog here can actually play without destroying the entire website. Maybe they can just destroy things in its own sandbox, but that's it. And third point about your control plane, if you build in-house, not able to be on par with the industry standards, well, I think there are many great choices out there. I think you heard about Cilium, which is not exactly a service mesh, but it's still great if you have a simplified amount of use cases for your traffic management. There is Istio, there is Linkerd. There are many out there. Here, my only takeaway, though, is that at our complexity, this might be a little bit harder than you can imagine. It might be hard to take a really established product off the shelf and trying to make it work. It might be hard, but maybe not. So this is the last story. This is, booking experience. You might relate to our scale or not, or maybe you are thinking yourself, hey, in a couple of years I want to be at this scale because we have this fantastic startup. We are going to be successful. But this is our story. Now, back to Shweta, because Shweta will try to help you towards this decision. I mean, mesh, not mesh?
Thanks, Andrea, once again. What's in it for you? It's story, it's mistakes, it's whatever the journey may be, but what's in it for you? Let's look at that. There are a couple of things which we would suggest you. First thing first, do I need service mesh? Maybe or may not be. How do you decide that? You need a couple of things to consider here. Yes, you need service mesh if you have any of these pain points like observability, the handling failures of these services. Very often these services are going down, you're having problem service discovery. Then you have traffic control, that whom to give priority, whom not to, how to control this whole thing in having that control with you. If the reliable rollouts is another problem, that if you roll out one thing, other thing fails. And how do you keep balance between them? If any of these are your pain points and majority of these are pain points, then yes, you need service mesh. If your architecture looks like many services, doesn't matter where it lies in the hybrid cloud, but if it is a lot of services today or tomorrow, then you need service mesh. Lots of intra and inter-service communication is something where your architecture is going, then yes, you need service mesh. And also the big trust boundaries which actually you would need to establish between those services, if at all they need to talk to, then that's another requirement. Third aspect is, even if nothing is there, as Andrea said, that if tomorrow looks bright for you and you have reasons to make your business agile, you are in process of thinking, breaking down your monoliths, and you are in big refactoring, multi or hybrid cloud combination, reliability journey is important for you. And internal API standardization, because along with service mesh, it brings a lot of good practices also in systems. So internal services standardization. And last, as I said, the business agility, because if you build it today, it will give you a lot of benefits in terms of business enablement, which we have seen in our practical experience. That becomes very easy. So if any of these things relates to you, then yes, you need service mesh. Otherwise, discard it. You don't need it. Second thing is, it's an uphill journey, but worth taking. Because as we said, we need service mesh. For an instance, let's assume that. A lot of cases I have seen with my experience that customers say that, no, today we are dabbling with Kubernetes, we are going on EKS or Azure or wherever. So let's first get control of the microservices architecture or services, or in hybrid cloud, how do we lay it out? We will see the service mesh later, but that should not be the approach. I think idea is to get started as soon as possible, and it'll bring you to a brighter, future in the end. So definitely uphill journey, but it's worth taking. This is one very important thing where we have learned with difficulty or with failures, that scaling. So Andrea spoke about all his beautiful guardrails he had put, but very soon we realized that a lot of guardrails without taking care of user experience also fails. So let's say if you make life difficult for them, they'll not adopt to service mesh. So you will have to have the balance between the two, where you are rolling out feature, but not at the expense of your user experience journey. So as simple as any service get injected in your system, it should be as easy as possible for the developers. It should be seamless for them. So that should be one of the goals, and user experience comes handy. And last is that manage the mileage. Now, take a pause, play a little bit, and grow at your own pace, because every company, every organization, every use case is unique. And sometimes we need to go fast, then maybe take some managed control plane facilities, those partners along who can bring or make your journey a little faster. If you have time and you can go a little slower, then go at your own pace and work on those features which are important for you, not just because that all that beautiful features are getting released out there. So definitely that catch-up action is not required, but work at your pace. So with that said, we are at the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening patiently. And do connect with us if you have your journeys to be shared, anything learning for us, or you want to stay connected.
Thank you very much.